All right. We're right here. Okay. Right there's fine.
Okay.
Okay, you are listening to 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative. Since 1982, this is Red, Chris is in the other booth, and we are here with our guest, Camille. Now, can you explain who you are, what you do for the community and such?
Sure. My name is Camille Hopkins. I just returned to Buffalo after living in Portland, Oregon for 7 years. I currently work for the University of Chicago doing social research studies. I'm a former employee of City Hall here in Buffalo, working there 21 years. I identify as a transsexual woman. And while I was working at City Hall, I transitioned in my 15th year.
Which is pretty incredible to do.
As far as I know, I was the first one who came out in the workplace.
Oh, wow, really?
Well, it was time to live an authentic life. And even though I'm a late transitioner, better late than never. I'm also the co-founder of Spectrum Transgender Group of Western New York. And, I'm back to kind of give them an assist. I'm the media spokesperson for Spectrum.
Oh, well, that's really good. Yeah. This community, I think, is just starting to come out more and more as the issues keep coming up. And I think it's really good to have that kind of system for anybody in the trans community.
Well, trans folks are in the news nowadays, but we've been here for millennia.
Oh, yes.
It's just that now we're having prominent individuals want to be their true self.
Exactly.
We're lucky enough to have not one but two trans support groups in this town, plus some also ancillary ones over at the Pride Center.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that go on in a person's life. There's both a, internal and an external journey,
Yes.
About discovering yourself and then having to discover how to live, if you choose to, in the world that surrounds you with family, friends, coworkers, and such. And of course, we've been seeing a lot of things in the news lately. Of course, I think you guys were talking earlier today about the North Carolina laws.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that law was that law was pushed through really quickly.
Yeah.
And of course they did it because they didn't want to have any debate.
Oh, yeah.
About the whole thing, and it affects all of the queer community.
Mm-hmm.
Gay, lesbian, bisexual, and especially trans folks.
Oh, very much so.
Because they added an extra law that essentially says if you're going to use a public restroom, you have to use the one that is associated with your birth certificate sex.
That's the worst. My heart breaks for that. For me, honestly, I'm gender fluid, so looking at between which bathroom should I go into depends on what kind of day is it and how comfortable do I feel, and it's the same way for trans people, even more so.
Oh, yeah, really. And it's all really about just somebody wanting to have a right to pee in peace.
And that's all you're doing. You're peeing and then you're going.
Right, but there's this meme that parts of this country want to essentially say that, like, trans women, for instance, are men, and they don't want men in the women's bathrooms. But this is the amazing thing is, like, trans women have been using bathrooms for decades.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And as far as we know, there is not a recorded instance of any arrest for any sexual misconduct at all. So they are creating a situation where there is no problem.
Exactly.
So it's, but again, I think it's being driven by the religious right, and it's a backlash due to the marriage equality ruling by the Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah.
So since they can't do anything about that, they're looking around, and now they found that the trans community is a very visible and vulnerable community.
Oh, very much so.
And of course now we're seeing religious freedom bills. There's almost a dozen of them in various stages in states across the country. We're seeing some really bad ones. I think I think Tennessee and Georgia have a component where if a student sees another student who identifies as trans in a bathroom, they can get a bounty of $2,500 for turning them in.
Are you serious?
So now essentially they're criminalizing trans identities.
That's
Welcome to the world of 2016.
Oh yeah.
Take a one step forward and two steps back. So, but we're trying to make progress as best we can. Eventually, the arc of history tends to move towards equality.
Oh yeah.
So we will get through this, and if nothing else, these folks who espouse these kind of beliefs are going to age out. And we won't see them, because I have spoken at hundreds of venues, mostly at colleges and universities, and the young people that I've spoken to are so positive.
Oh yeah.
About
even on this campus, like even though Buff State, sometimes I love Buff State, but it's also kind of like up in the air. But we actually have gender neutral bathrooms. We have them somewhere. I don't actually know where, but we have actually like a middle ground, which is really nice. So when we have LGBT people and everything from that community coming in, they're like, wow, I didn't know you guys actually were inclusive with that. And Buff State's slowly getting there themselves. Yeah,
that's a real positive, because it gives us options. Like myself, I use the women's restroom because, I'm a woman.
Exactly.
All I really want is a bathroom that doesn't have a line.
Yes.
And even illustrate. I was shopping at the Boulevard Mall yesterday, and I was in Macy's, and the women's bathroom was being cleaned at the time, and I really, really, needed a bathroom, and the person who's cleaning it, when I asked for it, she just shrugged her shoulders. And directly across from the door, that was the men's room. So I just said, I'll use that. I walked in, found an empty stall. The place was empty, but I didn't care.
Exactly.
Really, when you think about it, the bathrooms in your homes are gender neutral.
Exactly. Even in this radio station, anybody goes in, no matter what.
Yeah, really.
Doesn't matter.
But the look on the worker's face, when I was going in was incredulous. It's like, oh my God. Like, what are you doing? But it's like, no, I have a mission.
Yes, I have a mission. I don't care what means. It's like even when identifying as female-bodied for most of my life, it's just like, you're like, well, you're at a concert, and then you gotta pee, and if you're at First Niagara, the lines are always out the door, and it's like, well, screw it, I'll just go in the men's, and you do it because you can't stand in line for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, really. Well, yes, and I support that, right? In fact, I was married a few decades ago, and my wife, and I had gone to a Bruce Springsteen concert in the old Memorial Auditorium.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a break during one of Bruce's long concerts. And the lines, of course, were super long for the women's bathroom, but there was no line in the men's bathroom. So she asked me to check if there was an open stall, and there was. So she quickly went into the stall, took care of her business, and the men were just looking at her, mostly with some with smiles, some with incredulous looks. But it's like, hey, we all have a common goal here.
Exactly. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. But, in some instances, bathrooms can be a tricky place. Some of my friends have been challenged by women who go into the women's bathroom, and vice versa for trans men who use the men's bathroom.
Exactly.
So, it shouldn't be an issue, but, and that was a huge issue when I transitioned at City Hall.
Oh, okay.
They couldn't fire me for being trans because I advocated for a trans non-discrimination law.
Right.
But they could make problems for other aspects of it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was forbidden to use the women's room at one time, and I had to essentially threaten them with a lawsuit and get the federal EEO people in.
Oh, really?
Well, and to this day, as far as I know, the city still has a certain rule that if you're a pre-op, you can't use the bathroom that you identify with. So in fact, right now the city is updating their employee handbook, and I'm pushing for them establishing some kind of like written laws, or at least some guidelines, and they refuse to have any conversations. So I'm not aware of any trans people currently in City Hall. So I don't know if the next person is going to have the same problem or if there will be some enlightenment. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's definitely that. Let's cut to a break for a little bit, and we'll get back on topic and keep on talking. All right? You're listening to 91.3 FM, WBNY. And we're back. You're listening to 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982. heard a little bit of Benny Goodman just to transition through some stuff when we gathered our thoughts and such. So we're back here with Camille, and we are going to talk now about more college stuff.
Sure. Since we're sitting here in a college station, let's kind of like keep that theme going.
Yep.
A few weeks ago, I was contacted by a student over at ECC, Erie Community College.
I've been there.
Well, ECC seems to have a problem with trans students.
Actually, do you know which campus?
The downtown one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they had an issue about 10 years ago, and I thought that they'd cleared it up. Apparently they don't.
Oh, no.
Even in their anti-discrimination policies, they have sexual orientation, so they celebrate the gay, but, you know, they show the T to the exit door.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what they were doing when this trans student came out. And they'd actually had gone to them and said, you know, I'm transitioning and I need to use or have access to the women's restrooms. And they were told that essentially that if they did, there'd be disciplinary action up to and including arrest.
Oh my God.
So this was very disturbing, but you know, she'd done a little bit of homework and she contacted a higher up who checked further, and it seems with Mario Cuomo's executive order, he has added gender identity and expression to the state's human rights law.
Oh, wow.
And that went into effect on January 20th of this year.
Oh, wow, okay.
Essentially, organizations, including schools, cannot discriminate against transgender individuals.
Good.
It goes to public accommodations, and restrooms qualify under public accommodations. So when they found out that they were in violation of that law, where they could even be sanctioned and lose state and federal funds, they immediately apologized,
oh my God.
Sent her a letter. Yes, but it's not because they wanted to. Essentially, it was because they were forced to.
Exactly.
And I've been in contact with the chief diversity officer over there, and she seems like a nice woman.
Oh, that's good.
And I noted though that they going to have any sensitivity and awareness sessions just in case some people, you know, have some issues, and they should be able to learn about trans people, because not everybody knows trans people.
Oh, no.
In fact, a study done last year showed that almost 60% of average Americans knew a gay or lesbian person, but only approximately 6% of the average Americans personally knew a trans person.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So, you know, when people know us, they tend to be much more sympathetic, and they have empathy for us, and it changes the dynamic with the interactions.
Oh, yeah.
So for people who just don't have that in their lives, you know, or who equate, you know, when I came out in City Hall, one of my coworkers essentially put me in the drag queen category, you know, who said, I support you, but you should be able to do this either in the privacy of your own home or in a club, you know. And I said, you know, that's drag queens. It's about a performance.
Yeah, it's completely
you know,
different.
Whoops.
Oh.
Ah. Okay.
You're good.
Technical difficulties. Right. You know, in other words, you know, she was implying that any clothing that I wore was a costume, and you know, and essentially, you know, she just didn't know. You know, she equated, you know, drag queens with trans people. To them, it was interchangeable.
It's kind of like that one Eddie Izzard quote. It's like, oh, why are you wearing this skirt? This is girls' clothes. It's like, these aren't girls' clothes. These are my clothes.
Exactly. You know, we tend to genderize a lot of clothes, and you know, of course, like I'm like today I'm wearing jeans and a t-shirt. So you know, even though I bought them in the women's section, This could be worn by anybody.
Exactly, like shirt I'm wearing. I actually found in the men's section of
Yeah.
Kmart on a clearance rack.
Exactly.
It's like, yay, it's cheap.
Yeah. So, but so things worked out. At least they appear to have worked out for the ECC student. Now I'm asking them, ECC, to add gender identity to their anti-discrimination policies, because you need to put it in writing, because you can always people that are impacted by this can always fall back on that and say, you said it here. You need to continue to follow up on that,
because safety of students is very, very, very important.
Well, exactly. Now I'm a graduate of UB, and I attended a meeting of some of the staff and faculty a couple of weeks ago, and to praise UB, they have a health insurance policy for their students that allow trans-specific health treatments up to and including gender-confirming surgery. Now, which is very progressive. Ironically, though, they don't offer the same type of insurance coverage to their teachers and staff.
Oh, really?
And when I asked why, they said, well, we're negotiating. At the time, I don't think they were aware of it, but they are in violation of SUNY's law that says you can't discriminate in health insurance. And we'll see. There might be some pushback, or they might just say, this is the right thing to do. And it really, we've seen with San Francisco, who offered that with their employees like more than 15 years ago. It really doesn't cost them anymore.
No, it really doesn't.
Same thing with the city of Portland, and other cities around the country. And I would like to say something positive.
Yay, positivity.
Yay, yeah. It all isn't doom and gloom in the tea world. The city of Buffalo actually stepped up and now recognizes the needs of their transgender employees by offering medical treatments and services up to and including gender-confirming surgery.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
This is, was a pleasant surprise when I heard that. In fact, this might be the first time that this is being revealed to the general public, because there was no press release. There was nothing that went out there, and I don't know why they wouldn't, want to at least say, look, this is one step towards progress here in the city of Buffalo. So I'd like to say thank you. It came a little too late for me, because I asked for it back in 2005, and I was politely told that it ain't going to happen. So even though I'm post-op, so accessing that, and I still get health coverage because I'm a retiree.
All right. Yeah.
Even though I still work.
Oh, yeah.
But not for the city of Buffalo. No. So if there's any trans employees or people that are thinking about transitioning and you work for the city of Buffalo, you've now got a great option on your hands.
That's so awesome to know.
See the HR person and tell them, we want what we want. Now the flip side of the coin. It's about issues about moving forward. Sometimes it's inch by inch. Sometimes we make a giant leap. Sometimes we fall backwards or so. But like when we see something that just isn't right, we should step up and say it.
Most definitely.
And eventually you'll reach a reasonable individual. And I'm still trying to find one of those folks. And I noticed, I don't know if you're aware, but the city of Buffalo has an opportunity pledge that essentially says, businesses, organizations, and individuals will strive to be inclusive with all their dealings,
Oh, wow.
with all minorities, to make Buffalo a welcoming city. And
good.
it's, if you go to the City of Buffalo's website, there are literally hundreds of individuals and organizations who have signed this pledge.
Oh, good.
The intention is right. Unfortunately, when they list all the classes of individuals that would benefit from having an inclusive policy, trans folks have been left out.
Oh, not again.
And it's like, I know, really, and essentially it looks like they just lifted the 9 or 10 protected classes from the city's anti-discrimination laws, and they just forgot to add gender identity.
Oh, yeah, like that's important.
Well, I pointed this out to the person who spearheaded this pledge, and she claimed that community members thought that this was fine the way that it's stated. And I pointed out that they probably didn't speak to any trans people because they would have pointed that out.
Yep.
So I'm working with a few organizations to get their support. The Pride Center, Stonewall Democrats, Spectrum Transgender Group, they are unanimously in approval of sending letters and support to the mayor to add this class of individuals to their opportunity pledge. And if any of your listeners would like to have a voice in this, they can call Mayor Brown's office, and I'd like to give his phone number.
All right.
So folks, grab a pen and pencil, and you can, if not talk to the mayor, talk to his one of his staff, and you can do that by dialing 716-851-4841. That's 716-851-4841. Or if you love to email, email to mayor@city-buffalo.com, because they just love to get love letters.
Oh, yes. Lovely love letters.
So, but this is how we do it. Like one person alone can't lift it, but when we all work together.
Oh, yeah. That's...
And especially, like the trans community makes up less than 1% of the population. There's no way that we could possibly do it. Even gays and lesbians, at most it's 10% of the population, and that's still not enough to make things happen. So we rely upon all of our cisgender and straight friends.
Oh, yes. Very important, and they're not excluded from anything. We need support from everyone. And that's one of the things online that, there's a certain section that's like, no, straight people and cisgender people, they don't understand. It's like, no, they want to be educated, and that's a big part because we're such a small community that we need the educational standpoint so people are educated. So when a cisgender person or straight person hears something, they can be like, actually, no, and be a help. Help is all we need.
Right. And for some of our viewers who aren't familiar with the term cisgender, it basically means non-transgender. Just a few less syllables.
Yeah. You're comfortable in your skin you were born in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good thing, And, of course, and it's not like, it's not a natural component. Did you know that there's over 102 species of animals who change their sex in nature?
That's crazy.
So when people say, how can you do this? It's against God's natural order.
Actually.
It's like, well, why did he let this happen? And of course, it depends on perhaps what kind of God you worship or not worship. The fact remains is that, in our natural world, those types of creatures exist.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's cool even in different religions. Like there's, I saw this thing recently with native, I forgot which native tribe it was, but there's this dancer that identifies, I think, as third gender, because they have all those different divisions, and it's helping kids in their community identify and understand a little bit more because it's normal to them. Like, it's twin spirit, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, well, this is normal. And it was a really, really beautiful video.
Before Christian missionaries invaded America, a lot of Native American tribes often had shaman, like revered individuals who were two-spirited, and many of them had this male-female component, and they were honored, and they felt like the spirits had gifted them with this ability to transcend, both the male and female sex and genders, and they were almost worshipped. But when Christian missionaries came over, they condemned this here. In fact, they often destroyed the clothing, ordered that they would be executed or put in exile if they wanted to embrace the religion that they were attempting to impose upon them. And it's happened in parts all over the world. Every culture has some component of their population that challenges what gender is. I mean, trans people have literally been around for millennia.
Oh, very much so. I think that's where, like, a lot of people don't understand either. Like, I loved my cultural anthropology class because you learned about different stuff. Like, my professor touched into that, and I'm like, this is amazing, because when you learn that, you're like, oh, okay, so this has been normal. Just, the whole everything in America makes it not.
Exactly.
That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, it's a meme that people just in general are just growing to accept. And in fact, I shouldn't even use the term meme because this exists in our society, and no law is going to make it go away.
Nope.
No posting of cops in front of a bathroom is going to make it go away.
Yep.
It exists because it exists in nature.
Yep.
In fact, there's over 150 peer-reviewed studies that link transgender identities to a biological component. I mean, it's a neurological anomaly that essentially takes place while we're in our fetal stage. The brain develops along a different passageway, and that's why we often have these feelings that, even though what's between our legs doesn't appear to match the corresponding gender, what we're feeling with in our thoughts.
Yeah, which leads into dysphoria and all that fun feeling. And that's a feeling nobody should ever feel because it's not the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, but it's getting better. I mean,
very much.
I knew that I was different since I was 6 or 7 years old. It was just, back in those days, there was no internet, there was no support groups. And it was difficult to manifest, how I was feeling inside. I had a couple of sisters, and so, I'd often slip into their clothes. And initially, we were playing house, and it's okay, like when you're 6 or 7, parents think kids are role playing in that. But when you start moving to 9 or 10, you start getting this message that boys shouldn't express feminine qualities. So and I started seeing that in school and other aspects where it wasn't good for boys to embrace femininity,
which is really ridiculous.
Well, ironically, girls are encouraged to emulate males. In fact, we have some positive words in the culture, such as tomboy. Which is not a negative term, but there's no positive term for a boy who emulates femininity. I mean, you'll hear things like sissy or fag boy or any
like that.
In fact, like one, and it's almost as though like the males in society, have this masculinity code imposed upon them, and so many people act as gender police.
Yep.
And whether it's in the workplace, in school, and one of the worst things that you could say to a straight boy is to call them gay or a fag. And men are often just self-policing their own behaviors. Am I masculine enough?
Yeah, and it's a real big problem with that. Like, even like when it comes to cis and straight guys, it's just like they have encounter that too, because you're like, well, I mean, I know what I am, but I may like this thing that's more feminine, but does that make me gay? Or like, it's one of those things. It's just like, it's so toxic masculinity, and it's a shame because like guys are sensitive too. And I'm pretty much, for some reason, people just come to me and talk to me, and I'm a very open person. And I think the fact that I'm down in the middle of every binary kind of helps that, because they just see like, oh, well, you're accepting, you understand, and they just come to me and talk to me. I'm just like, I'm so sorry. Like it hurts no matter what.
Yeah. It's it is changing though. More folks are coming out as genderqueer, or just are not going to be limited to the binary.
Exactly. When I was 15, that's when it clicked. Like, always when I was younger, I would like go put on my dad's clothes, and I wouldn't put on my mom's old clothes for like that were laying around for laundry. I'd just get in my dad's dress shirt and just walk around and be adorable. But like as I grew more and more, I'm just like, wait, there's a thing in the middle. And it clicked, and everything felt right. Like, I didn't openly come out probably till I was about 18, but still, it was just like I felt so much better, and it's a nice feeling.
Oh,
knowing you're not alone.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Especially like music too. Like, I am in this difficult part where I love the one artist, Laura Jane Grace from Against Me. I've seen her live. Her new thing that she came in town with the Devouring Mothers is her open journal notes of when she was going through her transition from a young age to where she is now in her stories. And like, there's some parts where I definitely identify, but I'm not trans. So I'm like, I don't want to be like, yeah, but I understand that sort of spectrum at the same time. It's this wibbly, like, middle ground that it's just like, okay, I get it, but at the same time, I support everything.
Yeah, really.
Sorry to go on that tangent.
No, I love that, and
good.
in fact, we should always, embrace that. I support everything. At least allowing people to, be their true self.
Oh yeah.
Because it makes for a healthier individual living in a healthier world.
Yeah.
So of course, that there's other parts of the world that just are so negative.
Yeah.
And that's just not for trans people. Geez, if you women in Saudi Arabia
man.
can't even drive cars.
Nope.
If they go outside, they have to be accompanied by a male relative. They can't even worship together in mosque. They have to the mosque have separated rooms, and I hope that'll change
Me too.
someday. But it's deeply ingrained in the culture, and so I guess in comparison we're a little bit better. But but considering where we are, I think we should be much further
Definitely.
along. And we often show it by the attitudes of our friends that are often translated eventually into the people that we vote for, that will put laws in effect that guarantee our ability to live full lives.
Exactly.
Really, if a gay couple is living across the street from a straight couple, it's like, how does that impact the straight couple? And you remember the arguments last year that we were hearing? It's like, oh my gosh, it's going to destroy the family. And
Oh,
it's
no.
like, please tell me how.
Yeah.
In fact, when that question was brought up during the Supreme Court hearings, they said, like, well, what is the actual harm that will be imposed upon if we have same-sex marriage? And they couldn't think of a single
all.
thing. All they just
Nope.
kept on saying, like, well, the family values will be threatened, and it's like,
no,
but how?
Yeah. And then there's like the whole adoption and kids. There's more couples that want kids, and they can. There's that whole thing too. So they can adopt, and those kids who want a family can have a family, and it doesn't matter. They have people who care about them.
Yeah, and the laws are slowly changing that would allow gay couples to adopt, and it's but ironically, some of the adoption agencies are run by religious organizations.
Of course.
And unfortunately, they are putting their foot down and just saying no, that it would be damaging not to have a mother and a father. But no, there's been multiple studies that have shown that there is no difference. In fact, the kids that grow up in same-sex families actually have a healthier outlook and are more open-minded than ever before. So there is no tangible reason.
Exactly.
But we have a lot of organizations who skew these statistics to show otherwise.
Yeah. And that gets also into media. Like there's shows like Modern Family, which is like shows the couple that has the daughter that they adopted, and it's like so many people love that show, and it's such a norm that it's like, well, wait, no, not everything's like this, because you're so used to seeing it on TV, and if you accept it and see it on TV and you're not educated, that you don't know that there is the discriminatory aspect of things, it's just kind of like, oh wow, this needs to change. So.
Exactly. Well, it's important that it's out there, because at least people see something. If it's not in their life already, if they don't know somebody, then at least they're seeing some depiction. And again, I mean, it's a fiction show.
Yes.
Who is meant to bring laughs and eyes to advertising. But the same thing could be said like more than 10 years ago when Will and Grace came on, and started presenting some aspect of what gay people were about, even though there was not exactly accurate, but it was the start, and that it's allowing more and more of these stories to be told. We're seeing great stories being told nowadays about trans lives. They're not. They're not being depicted as sorrowful individuals or tragic or serial killers.
Yeah.
The show Transparent is quite interesting and enlightening. In fact, they have trans people often playing many of the roles, and
which is very nice to see.
Even though the individual who plays the main role, is cisgender, and that has been an issue with some parts of the trans community. But and I think that as time goes on, we're going to start seeing more and more trans people playing roles, whether
it just takes the time.
Well, exactly. What we're already seeing, like in Orange is the New Black, Laverne Cox is playing a trans woman, in the prison.
And then there's also Ruby Rose, who in the show identifies obviously with the female side of things, but because of her and Laverne Cox, it's like, oh wait, you're gender fluid. With Ruby Rose, like her one song Break Free, it has this whole expressionism with everything. And I actually wanted to get your opinion, because there's the part where it's like it shows the liberation and saying trans and gender fluid, etc. people exist, but there's also the side of it that I hate is it turns into this sexualization. Like, oh, now I'm gay because I think this person who's fluid, who works as both, is attractive. So, that kind of stigma that comes with it. It's it's the weirdest thing because it's like, yay, this person is what I identify, but now they're sexualizing how I identify.
And that's especially a problem for like young trans women, you know, because, you know, to be young is to be sexual.
Exactly.
And, you know, it can be difficult for, you know, trans women who haven't, you know, gone through the proper puberty. And so they might have some telltale signs of a you know, their birth sex. And it can be difficult just being in the society that wants to sexualize women. And, you know, of course, us older gals, you know, we're getting older, so there's not that pressure to be, you know, sexual.
Yeah.
You know, in fact, you know, I'm morphing into my mother, so to speak, or so. And of course, like my goal is to be an old lady. So, but, you know, and even though like I do regret not coming out earlier, but, you know, I didn't have the means or the wherewithal to do that. But I'm so glad that, you know, we now have those those means. Because like I was a transgender kid, you know, and, you know, there's tons of them now coming out. In fact, there's organizations that provide support for the kids and the families of transgender youth. And in many cases, you know, we have trans kids have the ability to forestall the wrong puberty by taking hormones blockers.
Without,
you know, now that's not cross-gender hormones. You know, they don't give that until like they're well into their teens or so. But you can forestall the development of inappropriate body
and you
parts
can really damage yourself.
Well, yeah, because some things, you know. When I hit puberty, I had a soprano voice. I was in my school choir, you know, and the testosterone, you know, took that away from me. And even though like I'm on female hormones now, it can't undo the damage that testosterone caused. Like
that's also a huge myth.
Hormones give, but they can't take away.
Yep.
And of course, like, you know, I sprouted facial hair along with, you know, hair over the body, and I've had to spend thousands of dollars to eliminate this facial hair. And for young trans kids who go through the right puberty, they won't have to worry about that.
And we'll leave on that good positive note. Are there any other closing things you want to talk about real quickly? We have like a minute left.
Well, if you have trans friends, give them a hug.
Very much so.
You know, it's even though we're celebrating our victories, there still is some difficulties ahead. And, you know, we're ordinary. We just want to like live a life just like everyone else. So, you know, the love you make is equal to the love you take.
That's beautiful. All right. I would also like to mention that all the information for the mayor will be on our Week of the Warriors page. So if you didn't get the number in the email, if you follow our page, it will be there. Thank you very, very much for being here. It was a pleasure having you.
It was a pleasure for me too.
All right, you're listening to 91.3 FM, WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative since 1982. Up next, we have Kim Young Mason. So we will leave it off at that. Thank you for listening.